Hi everybody, welcome back once again to the Eastfield Gunroom YouTube channel with me, Matthew Morgan. You will notice we're outside again, which means we're going to be shooting. Not only that, you'll notice I'm ready for my holiday haircut. But besides that, we've got a really special review for today. This is the brand new, I don't think anybody else has looked at this gun yet, although they have been on the shelves for a few months now. This is the totally up-to-date 2025 Silver Pigeon 1 from Beretta. Before we start, hit pause, hit like, hit subscribe, because we always appreciate your support. Those likes and subscriptions do help to keep the channel going. As ever, this video is proudly sponsored by the British Shooting Show. Fantastic event, and we've only got 10 months to go, so get it on your calendar. A little bit of background on why I wanted to do this gun. It's been a few years since I've shot any kind of Beretta game gun. I certainly haven't shot one since they went from the standard mobile choke nominal bore barrels over to Optima HP, which was about 2019, so I'm quite keen to have a go with this. Alongside that, they've made a few different improvements, both cosmetically and mechanically. Behind me, we've got stand 5 here at the fabulous Oakedge shooting ground. Big thank you as ever to Sue and the team for letting us come down and film here. If you haven't been here, it's a fantastically picturesque setting and the targets are excellent. You must come down and try it. Right, what I'm going to mention is this particular gun I'm going to shoot today is actually left-handed. It's the only one I could get my hands on at short notice, so I'm getting my excuses in for missing everything early. So stand 5 here, we've got going away, which means the bird's going on holiday, and we've also got a hanging hawk, which means that particular bird's been out all weekend on the Stella. That's stand 5 done, and the hanging hawk hasn't only got to worry about his headache because I've just obliterated it. Like I said, I've not shot one of these for a number of years. I've certainly never shot a Beretta game gun with the Optima HP and of course the Stelium barrel profile. First impressions are, yeah, nice and smooth to shoot, not very heavy on the recoil. And also one of the major improvements they've made with the new model is, of course, they've moved the knobbly bit, that's a technical term, on the inside of the action, exactly the same as the 688. If you haven't seen the review, we have done a video, so do check that out. What that does, it enables the gun to operate a bit smoother in terms of the opening and closing of it, and you can certainly feel the difference with this, because of course I didn't shoot a 688 because I couldn't get on one to shoot. That's the going away bird and the hanging hawk. Let's go and have a wander around, see if we can find a back for bank holiday budgie and a sober partridge. Right, I've come down to stand 1. The great thing about being here at Oakedge is they've got a massive array of different types of targets, and it's a plug and play system, so you don't have to be chaperoned, you can just come here and shoot, which is super. This particular stand, we've got a hondel, don't know what that is, some kind of bird presumably native to Cannock Chase that feeds off adders, who knows. As well as the hondel, they've also got a left to right crosser. Now I don't tend to get on too well with that kind of target usually because I'm left eye dominant, I have to close my left eye. Having said that, this is a left-handed gun, anything could happen. Right, I just shot the hondel, whatever that is, and of course the left to right crosser. Shot the left to right crosser really well, hondel not so well, but I have shot it okay. I was surprised how well I shot the left to right crosser. Nice and smooth, steady with the 30-inch barrels. What you didn't see then, what we sadly didn't catch on camera, is when I went back into the stand having got some extra cartridges, I hit my head on the top of the stanchion, knocked myself out and rolled down the hill with the shotgun. So we're going to shoot one final stand just to see how the gun performs on a different kind of target, and then it's probably best if I take myself off to A&E to make sure that my brain hasn't been knocked out of my head. So here we are on the final stand. What we'll do is we'll shoot a few more through it, and then we'll go back and we'll sit down and we'll delve into what Beretta have changed on this new Silver Pigeon 1 for 2025, and also why this gun is considered still today one of the best starter guns that money can buy. So here we are, we've been and shot the all-new Beretta Silver Pigeon 1 2025 game gun. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just sat down, rested my weary legs and had a bit of a drink because it is quite hot today. And I'm going to just run through the features, like I said, and more importantly, what Beretta have changed to kind of bring this gun right up to date. So the Silver Pigeon needs no introduction. It's been around, or the 680 series action has been around, which it's built on since 1977, thereabouts. It is the mainstay of most clay shooting grounds in the UK. If you go there for a have a go, the chance are you'll be given some kind of Beretta 680 series gun, be it a Silver Pigeon 1, a 686, a 687 to have a go with, because the reliability of them is just second to none. And also because of the kind of the barrel construction, the fact that they're made of polychrome, so I mean there's chrome in the production of the steel, they're a bit harder wearing than something like a Browning, so you can see why they're a popular choice for places like shooting grounds or simulated game day operators, that kind of stuff. So the first big difference is a cosmetic one. Beretta have completely changed the style of the engraving. Now the 686 or the Silver Pigeon 1 has always traditionally had a scroll design pattern, but what Beretta have done is they've gone to the very forefront of their laser engraving technology. They've got many axes, 4, 5, 26, I don't know what it is these days, but because of that they are enabled to get a completely different finish and a completely different depth of the engraving. And for me it actually looks very, very similar to kind of the current Silver Pigeon 5 model with the scroll engraving. I know they've just brought it out with the game scene, but to be honest, if you took the wood off these guns, you'd struggle to tell this apart from one of the Silver Pigeon 5s. So the engraving is really nice. They've got like this kind of sunflower scene, you know, it looks like off the front of a seed packet, but they've also got these wavy curly scrolls, which again is very nice. It's a bit different. It's a little bit like the original Silver Pigeon S, that's what I kind of remember it as, but you've got different depths of engraving. You've also got this kind of etched out border. It just looks probably a lot more expensive than it actually is my opinion there. Hinge discs are also engraved. They were engraved on the other Silver Pigeon one, but it's a new design. And on top of that, we've of course got engraving on the fore end iron, the top lever and the underneath, and it all ties in with this new laser technology that Beretta are using, and they just keep going from strength to strength in terms of innovation. Nice little touch on the bottom, they've got 686 Silver Pigeon and of course the Beretta logo, and underneath that in Roman numerals they've got the number 1. They've also, I'm not sure they did this in the previous model, the actual screw that goes in for the bottom of the trigger guard to hold it into the action, that is also now engraved, whereas previously I think it was plain. New design, not dissimilar to kind of the 691, which was the scroll engraved one with the wave design like the Old Spice advert, on the bottom of the trigger guard too, and a polished trigger, whereas I think previously it was kind of a matte finish trigger on that. I think more importantly for me is it's a much more subtle design because it hasn't got that nickel kind of in-your-face look. It's more of a polished design, so it's a brushed finish rather than a nickel finish. And I think it works really well. And like I said, most importantly, it looks like a gun that costs a lot more than it actually does. So that's the engraving. The action itself hasn't changed. It's a 680 design. It's been around for 40 plus years. It just works. This one is a 30-inch barrel version. They're also available in 28 and I believe 26. So this is a field version. So it's designed to be a little bit lighter weight. One of the things I really noticed when I was shooting this gun is where Beretta have changed the location of the closing pin, if you like, which is at the top of the action. It used to be on the side. The idea behind that is to enable the shooter to have a much nicer experience in terms of opening and closing the gun, the top lever operation. And to be honest with you, bear in mind this gun is brand new, normally you would go out and you'd be launching it open and closing it, pulling a face. I can see the difference, it actually works. So the barrels themselves, narrow game rib, which is traditional Beretta gear. It's a 6x6 parallel rib. But one of the key things for me in shooting this gun, like I said, I've not shot a Beretta game gun for a good few years now, was I wanted to see what the recoil was like in terms of how Beretta have developed the barrel technology over the years. So this one is Optima board, 18.6 high performance. So it's got the Optima HP chokes in it. Obviously these ones are flush. If you wanted to put extendables in, no problem at all. But from that point of view, the previous gun going back before 2019 was actually 18.4. Now what you've got to remember with a tighter bore is you will get a bit more recoil from it. So having this overboard technology that Beretta are now incorporating in pretty much all of their guns just makes for a smoother shooting experience. So we've got a ventilated game rib, solid centre rib, and the gun actually weighs 7 pounds 9 ounces, which we'll come on to shortly. To finish off in terms of the barrels, we have got 3-inch chambers, I mentioned that they're molychrome construction, which makes them extremely hard wearing and very impervious to rust. Very, very rare you'll ever see a Beretta that's pitted unless it's one of the kind of the ASE or the SO models which have a different manufacturing process. Engine turning, and as you would expect, CIP and high performance fleur-de-lis steel shotproof. So just going back to the stock and the action as a component, it's also interesting to point out the Beretta have done away with the traditional Silver Pigeon safety catch that was quite coarse and a bit stiff and a bit nasty sometimes. I've shot this gun, I haven't shot an auto safety gun forever, and I haven't noticed that it's been particularly difficult to engage the safety catch. It's felt nice, it's a big chunky positive switch. So again, what they're doing with putting that locating pin in the top of the action and moving it aside, they're just making the whole thing a bit more silky and a bit smoother for the end user to use. So whilst I'm here, I'll move straight onto the wood now. For the past few years, Beretta have come up against a bit of criticism in terms of the finish and the quality of wood on their lower price guns, and by that I mean the Silver Pigeon 1, because this is of course their entry level model. This particular gun, I like the finish and I like the grain of the wood. I think Beretta market this is sort of a grade 2 walnut, but it's nicely figured, there's something going on. It's not completely bland like a lollipop stick like Berettas have been in previous years, and we've got some double point checkering which hasn't changed. That's standard Silver Pigeon gear. 35-55 stock dimensioned, which is a bit higher than the old Silver Pigeon, which was 38-60 in many cases, which is a massive improvement from my point of view. And what they have done is they've gone for the new ultralight Beretta pad, which I believe is manufactured by the same people that make the Crocs, which are those things you put on your feet with holes in. Of course, the microcore recoil pad will also fit, and from a recoil point of view, difficult to tell really whether this would kick more than a gun with a microcore on. You'd have to put them next to each other to really test that out. But what I would say is I've shot it with 28 grams today, and it's not that thumpy, and bearing in mind it's left-handed as well, so it wasn't fitting where it should do on my beautiful body. And like I said, the finish, the Beretta have had a few problems the last few years. They've tried various different finishes to, of course, keep the cost down and keep the Silver Pigeon 1 competitive for the likes of the Browning 525, Game 1, etc. And they've come up with a few things whereby they've gone out and seen a spot of rain and just gone and ran off. But nowadays they've got it right. This is their new semi-oil finish, and it's nice and hardware and nice and durable. Like I said, this is a reasonable quality piece of wood, and actually the grain looks pretty well filled as well. On to the fore end. Nothing to change here, nothing to shout about, apart from, of course, the engraving design around the fore end iron, which is the new style, which goes in this kind of Silver Pigeon 5-esque laser enhanced action design. Fore end itself is a Schnabel, double point checkering. Obviously these guns are available in sporting specification. I couldn't get my hands on one, so we had to go with the left-handed game gun, which, to be fair, the way I've shot it, I might swap all my guns for left-handed ones. But the gun itself, like I said, available sporting, 28, 30, 32-inch barrels, which will of course have a wider rib, be a bit heavier, vented barrels, that kind of stuff. Other than that, there's various small gauges, which is probably something we'll maybe look at the future. Balance test, 7 pound 9 ounces, 30-inch. Again, when you just close that gun, it just feels better than if you got a 3-year-old one out the box and just opened it and closed it, because, you know, by changing the location of the operating button, it really has made a difference. Now, it's a little bit barrel heavy, which is a little bit disappointing. Having said that, it is out the box. It hasn't been balanced. A lot, I think, can be attributed to that lightweight recoil pad, which weighs absolutely nothing, maybe as much as a postage stamp. But also, you've got to remember, with a field gun, with a game gun, the profile of the stock and the actual thickness of the stock is usually reduced of that of a sporter. So there's not a lot of weight going on back here. So what we might need to do is put maybe a couple of ounces in the back of the stock, and then we'll get it balancing nice over the hinge pin. Right, now onto the box. Now you've noticed I've cleverly covered it in all this blue tape. That's the protective tape that comes on the gun when it's new, which I've obviously hoped to retain. It's not actually a CSI investigation crime scene. So standard blue Beretta case with the clasp locks, a bit like a crab's claw, and inside, that hasn't changed. The case is exactly the same as the previous model Silver Pigeon. So just to recap, the key difference is we've got a new laser engraving design. We've got the movement of the operation pin in terms of the opening and closing of the gun. We've got a new style selector. We've got a new recoil pad. We've got slightly upgraded wood and a better finish overall. So onto the box. We've got a plastic box inside a box, like a Russian doll. And in here we have got the choke key, which is the standard choke key, which works well. Why would you change it? We've got a set of sling swivels, which here in the UK, if you put these on your gun, you will devalue it by about 70% overnight. So probably best to do this. Chokes. 3 flush fit, Optima HP flush, 18.6. The standard set in a game gun is cylinder, quarter, half, 3/4 and full. If you buy a sporter, you will have a cylinder and a skeet with the removal of the full from that range of chokes. Olio, we know what that means now in Italian, it's gun oil. And that's pretty much it. Warranty wise, we've of course got 3 years here in the UK. They were running a promotion in terms of getting a 10-year one when you bought a new Beretta. That may still be on, you would have to double check. Feel free to comment below if you just bought a Beretta and you've got a 10-year warranty. Happy days. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes my full review, including shooting, yes, including shooting, of the brand new Beretta Silver Pigeon 1 game gun. Now, I think it's worth pointing out here that I've just come back from the Beretta factory, and every time I go, the innovation, the technology these guys are putting into their guns, it just surpasses anybody else in the gun industry. And that's not to say that other manufacturers don't do a good job, but what you've got to look at with Beretta is they will stand at nothing to be at the top in terms of the technology, the innovation and the design. You know, when people say to me, how much does a set of barrels cost for a Silver Pigeon? And you say, oh, they're like 900 quid, and they go, oh, that's a lot of money. And when you actually look at the scale of the manufacturing process to just make that one set of barrels, you would think it was worth 3 times the price. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. So my final point is, the engraving really, really suits the gun, and if you were to buy one of these, you would save yourself a considerable amount of money over buying the previous model Silver Pigeon 5, because the engraving ain't that much different. Right, if you've got any questions about this particular gun, please contact me directly, or anything shooting related. Details are on the screen. Don't forget to check out the website. If you have enjoyed the video, do hit like, do hit subscribe, because I do appreciate your support. As ever, this video is sponsored by the fantastic British Shooting Show. And just to finish off, a huge thank you to Sue and the team here at Oakedge for allowing us to use their fantastic facility once again. If you haven't been here, come here, because you will not believe how picturesque this place is, and as a shooting ground, it's fantastic. So that's it from me. The king lives on in terms of the starter gun, the gun that's already been around for decades and will be around for decades more. The 686 series of guns goes from strength to strength, a bit like the Lion in the old Peugeot advert. I'll see you next week.